Hi everyone, how are you today? Good. So my name's Erin Jones, and just a little background about me. I had a 16-year career with CVS Pharmacy. I was a corporate recruiter for pharmacists. I did a small stint at the university as an instructor there, and for the last 7 years, I've been a public relations liaison with Brick City Title. My life is literally networking. So Sonda asked me today if I would come and talk to you guys a little bit about it. Networking is really important, right? We do it every single day. And I think that what people forget is that networking literally is exchanging information to develop professional relationships. If I scoot over here, can you still see me? Okay. So one of the things that I hear a lot from people is the reasons that they don't network, which is surprising, right? Because most of you are business owners. But one of the main reasons is you'll say that you're too busy to network. It's outside of your comfort zone. Not everybody is an outgoing personality, so sometimes networking can be a little bit of a struggle for a lot of people. You don't really feel that you have the need for it in your business currently. You're busy, it's going well. I don't really need to get out there. I'm being successful. You're not really sure how it's going to benefit you. And you're in it for the me, right? That's why you're here to network. You want to grow your business. So you have to set an intention. You have to schedule time to network, just like you would anything else in your business. I had a real estate agent tell me one time at a lunch that she was upset because a good longtime friend of hers had listed her home to sell with someone else. And I said, well, why would they do that? And she said, we don't talk about work. So make sure that you're utilizing and having those same conversations you would have with a professional prospect with your friends and family. Because if you're not, they're going to somebody who is. Don't assume because they're your friends and family that they're coming to you. And then you have to be proactive to it. So coming to something like this is being proactive for your business. Are you diversifying your network? So we tend to lean towards people who are like us, right? You and I strike up a conversation, we have something in common, we automatically connect. We both like rock climbing, right? Automatically, we're talking about this. I don't really rock climb, let's just be clear. But it could be that we both rock climb. And so we have a connection. So we tend to lean into those, right? Because it creates a comfort. But if you don't diversify those and step outside of that with people who you don't automatically have something in common with, you're going to be missing those vital pieces. And then again, it's not always about you, it's about how it's going to be mutually beneficial. So 7 seconds is how long it takes you to look at me and decide if you want to interact with me. I don't talk, I don't say anything to you. You see me across the room, and in 7 seconds, you've made that decision. And some of the things that most people think, whether you realize it or not, is, can I trust this person? Do I seem trustworthy to you? Can I respect this person's capabilities? Now, that's a little bit deeper because you don't know exactly what I bring to the table yet, but you are making that judgment by the way that I appear to you. So everything's going to start with a conversation. And you can actually take control of your first impressions. Have you ever been anywhere really, and you meet someone and they completely dominated the conversation? You got a hello in, maybe, if you were lucky. So asserting your dominance does not attribute that to trust. And a lot of times, people are actually nervous when they're asserting their dominance, right? So they're over-talking. So just take a breath and let the person that you're interacting with talk. You're going to learn more by them talking with you than them talking at you. But you have to be able to listen to those things. So don't jump right in and go right through that. And then, of course, you always want to have a positive body language. So keep your gate open, have a nice smile, make eye contact, all of the important things. So I said I do networking for a living, and I do. So I interact with a lot of people at a lot of different types of events. Some small, some large, and there's a lot of things that you would be surprised because you're going to think, I'm a business owner, I'm a professional, those things don't happen. Oh, but they do. They do. So let's start with the do's. I like to start with the positives. So have a good firm handshake. By a show of hand, ladies, how many of you, when approaching someone and shaking their hand, get the limp noodle type handshake? Do you know what I'm referring to? Yes, yes. So I think that a lot of times, and that can happen with both men and women. So I'm using the ladies as the example, but it can come from both. And you want to have a nice, firm, strong handshake. Don't kill the other person's hand, make them walk away rubbing it, needing an ice pack. But you do want to make sure that it's firm and strong. It actually says a lot about you in the interaction. You want to make eye contact, which I've already said, but you want to be present in the conversation. So if I'm having a conversation with you in the room, I want to be in our conversation. I don't want to be looking over here and looking over there and kind of half in it, right? Because you feel a little bit put off by that, wouldn't you? You want to make sure that you silence your phone. And when you're at any type of event, I don't care what it is, whether you're in the audience, whether you're out and about and a lot of people are chatting and things like that, it's a distraction to you, to the other people that you're interacting with. Now, circumstances can be that maybe you have a sick child at home, you're waiting on an important call from work, and then that's where communication comes in. I may have my phone with me, and I may have it out, and we may meet, and I may say to you, listen, I am potentially waiting on a call, so I'm excusing myself in advance if that happens, just so you know. Because then if something like that happens, I don't think that they're using it as an excuse to get away from you. So a lot of these normal cordialities that people forget are what we would think of as common sense, but I don't want to tell you how many times I see it every single time I'm at an event. It's all the time. So, and I've covered talk less, listen more, but I put that one back in there because it is very important. You can't learn to interact with people if you're only talking about yourself. And be careful you're not also giving a short version of your resume when you first meet someone. So we're going to move on to the don'ts now. Don't hover in the corner at an event. So events may have food, they may have alcohol. None of those things are bad. Don't make that your staple for the entirety of the time that you're there. And again, not everybody is an outgoing personality, and that's all right. But you have to figure out a way to get yourself into the crowd. So if you need to go with a buddy, go with a friend. Maybe that friend is more outgoing than you. Maybe you're both a little shy. So together, you feel empowered. You have strength in numbers. But also don't just talk to each other. Limit your alcohol and food in the sense that don't get drunk at an event. I don't know any other way to say that. Don't get drunk at an event. And I always see a drunk person at every event I attend if there's alcohol. So remember that networking, while social, is work. So you have to be careful because you're always representing yourself in a professional capacity. So the thing about networking is that people get a couple drinks in them, they loosen up, they feel really more comfortable because they weren't really comfortable to begin with, but then it ends up with you dancing on a table. And yes, twice this year I have seen that. So I'm not even making that up. So be careful about what you do. I personally don't drink at events. I actually don't even normally eat. Personally, that's just me. I don't care if you do it. Set aside time. If they have a space, normally you don't have a breakout like you did today for lunch. If you're at a, like let's use business after hours with the chamber. That's a big one. There's not a breakout for it, but there's food and alcohol there. So you have to make sure that if you're going to eat, take the time, step away for a minute, have your food, and then come back into it. But don't be walking around with your food because like me right now, I have two things in my hand. If you approached me, how am I shaking your hand? I don't have a free hand. Don't discuss inappropriate topics. Again, seems like common sense, but you would be surprised. People don't know you. You usually have about a 2-minute interaction when you're meeting someone, and then if you're at a networking event, you're probably moving on to another person. So be very careful about the topics that you choose to engage in those 2 to 3 minutes you may converse with someone. I've met complete strangers before who have said all kinds of things, and you would be surprised. So I put that one in there because it's a reminder to always make sure that you yourself are representing yourself well. Have you ever been to an event? Didn't have bags, it wasn't that type of an event, and the people are walking around handing you out, not their business cards, but they're handing out like the brochures, the 3x5 cards, a flyer, any type of that stuff. Can I get a show of hands? I'm sure all of you have at some point. And there's not anything bad about that, except for the fact that if I'm at an event and I don't have anything to carry it in, where does that end up? All of those places. But it's not coming home with me. That's the one place I can guarantee you it's not ending up. So number one, that's a marketing budget. Number two, you want to make sure that it's effective, right? And people don't want to be discourteous and say no thank you usually, right? So they graciously accept it, but they're not taking it home 9 times out of 10. And also you have to be mindful of that. So gauge your event for what you do bring those to, but 9 times out of 10, most networking events like that, you're not going to bring those to. Networking is not selling. Do not sell. Networking is about relationships. Do not sell yourself at a networking event. Now, if you ask me what I do and I tell you what I do and you have a direct need for it and you ask me those questions, that's a different conversation that we're having that we're probably going to continue later on at some point, right? Don't give me your elevator speech in 5 minutes and sell me your product the first time I meet you unless I directly ask for it. Because that's not what networking is. You're trying to cultivate a relationship. So the next thing I always get asked about is how do you get in and out of conversations in a networking event? You meet someone, you've had your 2 minutes, and you'd like to move on, but they're still there. You can break in and out of conversation very politely, and the one thing that I typically do is I find someone else in the room that I know, and I introduce you. It's not impolite. It's making them have another connection. Maybe they haven't connected yet. Mary, have you met Sonda? You haven't met? Let me introduce the two of you. And then I'm going to step away, and they're going to start a conversation. And there's nothing wrong with that. I want to make 3 to 5 connections while I'm here. So now that you have all of that information about the do's and the don'ts and the things that you should and shouldn't do, what do you do with that information? You should have a plan when you go to a networking event. You shouldn't just be flinging out your information out there hoping it's going to make some sort of stick. So business cards, you should have them, and they should be current. I'm going to pause on that for a second because I get it a lot. I feel very strongly about this. Please don't give me your business card that has been crossed out, another former company, all of the above. Now, circumstances happen. You change jobs. That's great, right? You have a new position. You're excited. You don't have a business card. What can you do in that example? You ask me for mine, and I'm happy to give it to you. And then you email me your contact information. So there are ways around that. But remember, this is about your presentation of self. So you want to be representing yourself in the most current state. Also, don't make it rain your business cards. Have you ever been to an event and every single time you walk past a person, they're just, hey, how are you? Hey, how are you? Hey, how are you? Hey, how are you? Right? They're basically throwing out the business cards, as we like to call it, making it rain. Don't make it rain. You can be strategic with your business cards, but not everybody, you didn't even have a conversation with me. You just handed it to me as I passed by you. And here's the example I have for you. I was at an after hours. I was doing a favor for somebody that worked there. And as I was coming through, this gentleman stops me, and he looks at my name tag and he says, oh, you have an office, right? And I said, I do. And he says, great, here's my card. You're gonna need me because I'm gonna clean your office. And I said, nope, actually you're not. And I handed him back his business card. And I was just gonna have an educational moment with him. I wasn't rude about it. He got offended because I handed it back and I didn't get to say what I was going to say about the interaction. And then he walked off. His colleague, however, apologized for him, and then he left as well. So my point in that story is, be careful about how you interact with people because they're going to remember it. So when you go to a networking event, you should have a goal and a target. We talked a little bit already in some of the other presentations about being strategic, and you do want to make a plan. Who do you want to meet? Who is good for your business? And while all connections could eventually lead to that end result, you're trying to be smarter about how you work, so you need to be a little bit more focused about that. Drill down on who works for you, okay? And be specific about it. It can be a specific person, it can be a company. Maybe you have a specific initiative that's going on in your business at that current time. I just got this question at an event I spoke at earlier this week. They said, well, I don't necessarily need a specific person, then what do I do? Maybe you have something specific that you're doing in your company. And right now, that's relevant, so you do need something specific for that. So there is a specificity, and she just needed to drill down on that by thinking about it a little bit further. Who's in your contact sphere that can help you with that? So who do you already know? Who do you know that has great contacts? Sonda, for instance, has great contacts. She knows everyone. So Sonda is a great person. If you don't know somebody and you see her at an event, Sonda, I'm looking to meet the lady back there in the white shirt. Do you know what her name is? Do you think you might be able to do a personal introduction? I do it all the time. So approachability, there's a lot of different factors, but you want to dress for the occasion. And I always use the example, I would love to come to events like this in yoga pants and like a comfortable t-shirt and some sneakers. But I don't work at a gym. So that's not really relevant to my business and how I'm presenting myself. So be mindful of where you're going and dress for the event. Your body language, and then always have a welcoming smile. When I make eye contact with somebody, whether I know them or not, I always smile. Everybody at Publix thinks that I work there. Always happens. I'm just pushing my buggy along, shopping away, and I always make eye contact with people because it is habit, and I smile, and it never fails at least 3 times while I'm in the supermarket. Do you know where such and such is? And that ends up with me on my tippy toes trying to look at the signs to help them out because I feel bad. And then I work at Publix, and I love that you used the Publix example. Because this is what I always use, then I'm walking them through Publix trying to help them find their items. I don't get free items from Publix, by the way, for this. So, but it makes a difference because I seem welcoming. So people automatically are like, oh, she looks friendly. And then I'm helping them find butter. It's fine, though. I don't mind it. So the currency of real networking is not greed, but generosity. If you develop those relationships like we've talked about, and you can give something back to the person even before you've received something, they're going to remember that. I love connecting people. I'm good at it. It's natural to me. When you tell me what you do, I'm already thinking in my head how I can probably send some sort of business your way from somebody that I'm sure I know that would be a good connection. And it's just who I am naturally. And I get that not everybody thinks like that, but you can think like that. So when you're meeting people and you're cultivating those relationships, what do you need? That's what I ask people. What do you need? What can I help you with? What can I bring to the table for you? And eventually that may come back around for me. And I love that it might. But at the end of the day, they remember that. So again, you want to provide your connections, you want to build a relationship, and you want to know what your tagline is. Do you know a lot of times I ask people what they do, and they say, I work for, and I say, great, what do you do? I work for, what do you do? I work for a title insurance agency, but I'm the one that does all of their marketing and brings the clients to the table. You want to know how I do that? I cultivate relationships. So what do you do? And that's something that you have to think about. What are you bringing to the table? So no matter what you do in the interaction or how it goes, if you have exchanged information and you have said, I'll email you, we'll get together, you better do it. Especially if you're talking to me. Because I remember that, and I promise you so does everybody else. Just do what you said you were going to. So the thing about networking is it's a lot about how people remember you. It's about how you left them feeling, right? Because you're cultivating a relationship. So you have to be mindful of the small things that seem obvious that a lot of people still don't do. And if you're trying to get ahead of your competition, these are the things that stand out. In addition to all the other things you're learning, these are the things that set you apart from your competition. Because it's about you at the end of the day, individually. So if you want to make sure that you email or you phone call or you write a handwritten note, and the question I always get is, what's the statute of limitation on that? And there is one, but maybe I got busy and I met you on a Thursday, and maybe it's next Friday before I get to it. Now, I don't usually wait that long. I usually have a 48-hour rule, business days. But sometimes things happen, right? Maybe something unexpected happened and it was a week before I got to it. Be gracious enough to give them that period of time. But if after a week they haven't emailed or called, then you might want to follow up with them. But the other question that I also get is, how do I know what kind of a response to send? Do I email? Do I do a phone call? Do I do a handwritten note? Well, what kind of interaction did you have? That's how I gauge it. Was it a warm interaction? We talked a little bit, we exchanged, we said, we'd like to get together and dig a little deeper on what we both do to see how we could help each other's businesses grow. So at that point, I'm probably sending an email. Also my personality style. I like to have a record of it. I like to be short, sweet, and to the point, and I'm probably doing 8 other things. But it's okay if I made a phone call. Maybe we had a really, really great interaction, right? We made some of those connecting pieces. We both rock climb. We felt warm and fuzzy when we left each other. We knew we were doing lunch. We already put it on the calendar. I'm probably throwing you a phone call. Hey, listen, Sonda, it was so great to meet you. I had just a wonderful interaction with you. I'm looking forward to our lunch. Thank you so much for all that you do. Once we meet is probably when I'm sending a handwritten note. So typically to my clients is who I send the handwritten notes to. It's personal. Most people don't do handwritten notes anymore. How many of you have gotten a handwritten note in the last year? That's a good number of you guys. So handwritten notes are phenomenal. I love them. Do them. They remember that. It's additional steps, right? If you reach out to somebody and you don't get a response, and you reach out again and you don't get a response, again, personality style. Not everybody's on their email. I literally can't stand the number on my phone. If you guys haven't guessed it, I might be a little bit type A personality. So I can't take those indicators on my phone. It pops up, I need to get rid of it. There are people who have like thousands of them, and it literally makes my skin crawl when I think about it. I saw someone's phone at the last event I was at, 43,000 emails. I don't even know what you do with 43,000 emails. I would assume just dump them and start over because you're never getting through that. So, but they just don't read email. It's not their prime way of correspondence based on who they are. So if you email someone and you don't get a response, wait a few days and maybe give them a phone call. Maybe that's not how they actually interact with people. Leave a voicemail if you don't get to talk to them. And then from there, if you don't get a response, maybe something is going on. Maybe the next time you see them at an event, you can say, hey, Mary, listen, it was so great to meet you. I'm sorry we didn't get to connect. I was really looking forward to it. Do you think maybe we could potentially still do that in the future? And maybe something happened in her life that prevented her from responding to me. We don't know what's going on. So we also have to be mindful of that. We take these things so personally, right? Oh, they didn't respond to me. I'm never talking to them again. And you avoid them like the plague at the next event that you go to that they're there. But don't do that because you don't know what's going on. So a lot of times it's just about life. So you can follow up with that. Now, if we have that interaction and something still doesn't come of it, then maybe Mary doesn't know how to tell me no, and that's okay too. I don't get offended by that, but a lot of people would, and she's trying to be gracious. So at that point, I leave it. Now, if Mary in the future approaches me and she says, listen, I'm sorry we didn't get together, I'd really like to do that. And I'm just using Mary because I know her and she's in the front. So it's okay if that happens, but don't continuously keep pursuing. Have you ever made that contact and then you didn't know how to say no kindly, but then every week or day or third day you get the email from them. Has that ever happened to any of you? What do you do with that? Spam. Block them. So it's unfortunate, so you just have to be careful. And again, it's about the personality types, because the different personalities are going to depict your communication style. And there's tons of things that you can do to find out what kind of personality type you really are versus what you think you are. And then it also will explain the other personality types, and you can understand better how to interact with them. The Tony Robbins one, it's the DISC assessment, actually tells you different tidbits about other personality types and gives you examples of how you could interject with them. And no, you may not be able to easily recognize them right off of the bat, but it will definitely help you, even just in yourself, because sometimes we have to bring that down. Me personally, I like information up front. I like to know what I'm doing. I like to get it, and then I like to move on to the next thing. But not everybody's like me, so sometimes I have to be a little bit more relaxed in that when I interact with people. Now, I've been doing this a long time, and as a recruiter, you kind of learn those tidbits on how to recognize different personality types, and that's okay. That's just something I had to learn to cultivate. But the great thing is by doing some of those assessments, you can figure out more about who you are, and just figuring out who you are more and the traits that you interact with people in a professional setting can help you, even if you're not recognizing the other person at first. So, a couple of last things. So, a couple of tools, or the one tool that I use is I use CamCard. It's a free app for your phone. I don't keep business cards. Sorry in advance. I don't keep them. But I do store your information. So I use this app. I can take a picture of your card. I can upload it right to my contacts. It's free. It's easy. I can also delete you if I don't want you in there. But it's simple, and for me, it's streamlined. You know what else that does for me? It allows me to take the information with me wherever I go. Because if I have your business card and a business card holder in my office and I'm at a networking event, then if I'm interacting with somebody else who I know needs your business, guess what has to happen? I have to wait until I get back to that information. And again, everybody's personality types are different. I don't typically carry stuff with me when I go to events. So I am very streamlined in that respect. So my phone contains everything. Typically, I would have my phone in my hand with me right now, and I would keep my right hand free. So it's about being able to kind of adapt to your surroundings and being able to be as streamlined as possible when you're networking. The only other thing I want to add is make sure that you also wear a name tag. Have you ever been to an event and you're trying to, you've seen someone, right? Across the room, I've met you before, but for the life of me, I can't remember your name. And I'm trying, right, to place you desperately because I see that you're going to approach me. I know what's happening. You're coming for me. And I'm like, Mary, Tom, I don't know. You get to me and I, shake your hand. I'm like, it's so nice to see you again. And I'm almost hoping, right, that you're going to tell me your name. You're not going to tell me your name again. You think I remember. And I mean, sometimes I will. I'm going to be really honest with you. But no, that name tag is a lifesaver. I also go to events and people forget their name tags. It happens, right? But they have the option to write them down. Oh, no, I don't need one. Why don't you need one? Yes, you do. You do need one. Because at some point, I'm going to need to remember your name and you're not going to be wearing one. And then I'm going to be lost. How do you also overcome that? You just say, I know I met you before. I really enjoyed our last conversation, and I apologize for this. I can't remember your name. What is it? What's your name? Pam. Nice to meet you, Pam. Sometimes it's going to have to happen. And it's okay if it does. So those are kind of some of the main tips and tricks that we talk about that we see in the everyday networking realm. I think Sonda said we're going to hold questions until afterwards. So thank you so much for your time today. I hope you got something wonderful out of that.